Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Jeff Connacher. Jeff, it's great to have you on the show.
And yeah, it's good to be here.
Now, many of you know VertiGIS, which is Jeff's company. Jeff plays a role on the telecommunications side of VertiGIS. VertiGIS is, I'd say, probably known for enterprise geospatial software, but the reality is that they're actually delivering networks solutions across many different verticals. And today we're going to be talking to Jeff heavily on the work that they do in the telecommunications space. Jeff is the head of product management for the telecommunications vertical at VertiGIS. And so I'm excited to have you here, Jeff, to chat a little bit more about what you guys are working on. Before we get into what you're thinking and what you're working on at VertiGIS, let's start a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at VertiGIS.
Okay, well, I started off as an electronic engineer. My first job was in telecommunications, and from there I really went into software solutions for telecommunications and GIS or geospatial systems. So I worked for a number of years in that area with different telecommunications inventory systems, and started using as a reseller of one of VertiGIS's products, which is called ConnectMaster. And some years back, I joined VertiGIS as their product manager for telecommunications.
You know, obviously the telecommunications space continues to shift and change. Certainly, VertiGIS is a little bit ahead of everybody and always kind of playing around with the latest, greatest stuff. But one of the areas, obviously, is AI. It's a major topic for you guys. And we were talking a little bit before the show today. Where are you seeing that the operators, the telecommunications operators, are starting to see real value from rolling out kind of AI solutions?
Yeah, the telecommunications use of automation, if you could call it that, goes quite a long way back. I mean, I'm a bit probably older than you, Bant. So when I grew up, of course, it was all copper and dial-up telephones. But if you look at how the industry has progressed to automation, even when we were still using landlines, they went to electronic exchanges, and then they moved on to fiber and also to encoding of voice. And these systems become quite complex, and actually there's a lot of automation behind them, and there's really live decisions that have to be made. So if you think about it like that, telecommunications is not new in terms of an AI user. I know we've all become aware of it very much because of the large language models, the ChatGPTs and Claude and various others that have become in the last maybe 5 years that we have really started to use. But there's a lot more to machine learning and so on, which I think telecommunications providers or suppliers, vendors of equipment have been building a lot of that type of autonomous or automation into the systems for quite some time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I would say it's not new to them, but obviously as it progresses and as it's moving at such a pace now, there's with agentic systems and so on, there's far more that a telecommunications company can be doing with it. So telecommunications companies are very multifaceted.
Yeah.
You know, you get companies that do only a part of the telecommunications. There's companies that just do planning. There's companies that do operational. So there's many different areas that you have to consider that where this could be applied to in terms of operational and business systems. So yeah, I think that's really where it fits into telecommunications.
You know, I like everyone, we're all working on machine learning developments and challenges and opportunities. And I find, and I'm just kind of curious, I suppose, just from the telecommunications space, but I find that kind of how companies think about data and kind of that structure and the quality of that data really seems to obviously still be the bedrock of making this stuff work. I guess I'm just trying to get a clear idea from you. When you guys are kind of thinking about making sure that you have positive, or let's say maybe meaningful machine learning outcomes, why is it so key for you to make sure that the inventory is structured appropriately for that work?
Yeah. So as I was mentioning, I mean, there's no one telecommunications animal. There's a lot of different ones. But with any telecommunications environment, essentially they are networked with services on top, which they sell to end customers, be those business to business customers or consumers, customers at home. Really, the heart of what they sell is based on the network inventory. And the key for them, because it costs a lot of money to build these networks, from wireless networks, cellular networks to fiber networks, and the whole combination, inventory becomes core because you want a return on the investment. So you have to put a lot of inventory out there before you can start offering a service if you're a telecommunications provider. What that means is you spend all this money and then you hope to get it back. And if you don't have effective record keeping of the inventory, you just are not going to realize that return on investment. And at the end of the day, it's a business, and that's the key driver. Whatever else you say, whoever else are the stakeholders, essentially the money that's being put in needs a return. And so why? Firstly, have any AI running on assisting in running a telecommunications company, it needs access to data. And this data, if you don't have record keeping, the AI will not be able to really use that data. And the heart of that is the network inventory system. And when we talk network inventory, we're not just talking the physical fibers and street cabinets that we all see. I would say probably 60 to 70% of the network inventory sits inside of the physical. So it's what we call logical or virtual network, where it's all running inside of there. And that's a live environment that needs constant management. Historically, people have had to manage that, tune that. If you've got too much traffic running through one area, the system will fall over. And you have to be monitoring that and planning to enlarge the systems in the right place. And also when it comes to selling services, knowing what you've got to sell and where you can sell it to who. So that's really why I would say it really makes the core so important, because otherwise you're going to get garbage in, garbage out. The AI cannot work unless you actually have a way for it to look at the data and really make analysis of it. The beauty is, of course, there's huge amounts of data generated, especially when you come to traffic. And how do you analyze that? And an AI is so much better.
I mean, basically, when people are waking up in the morning and falling asleep at night with their telecommunications devices, I suppose probably telecommunication networks have probably the most superb data set of anybody. But I mean, obviously, AI certainly can play a role in so many areas for the businesses. I think it's kind of interesting that it also, I did a research study in the machine learning space in 2020. This is almost like before everyone even talked about AI, really. And at the time, one of the questions I asked in a research work that I did, I teach at a university as well, was, would you use AI for like brainstorming purposes, planning purposes, right? And at the time, the answer was absolutely not. That's the domain of humans.
Yeah.
I actually just recently fielded the same research again, and the answer was exact opposite. It was like, absolutely, the first thing I do is I start running models, I start running tests, I do all of this type of stuff. And so for me, I think it's fascinating to think about how AI can support us when we're thinking about planning, designing, really kind of mapping out decision-making processes, etc. How are we seeing AI being used by telecoms companies for those types of exercises, particularly maybe when they're obviously expanding their fiber networks, etc.?
Yeah. So, there's a buzz or a cliche maybe in telecommunications of what they do, and that's, you say, they plan, build, and operate.
Yeah.
So planning, of course, lends itself, and before planning, part of planning is demand forecasting. Where is the demand? where you need to plan. And then, of course, you plan and then you build and then hopefully you sell the service. So across the board, I mean, to start with automation of planning and also making those market decisions based on the demographics of areas, maybe where you need to actually, where you don't have enough coverage, where you do have enough coverage. Not all areas are equal. You know, just because there's an area and people living there doesn't mean they're going to buy your product. So really AI can assist in that sort of decision making by being able to really tap into the data reserves out there of up to date and to look at your network, look at how your network is operating and put the two together and help you with planning. Of course, the actual planning, the actual engineering tools also can lend themselves to automation or to an AI assisting. You know, an AI doesn't replace the underlying engines that you have, shortest path, tree networks, all of these engines, but it's knowing how to use those and how to put them together where an AI can really come up with suggestions and also run far many scenarios than the human can. So this, I think, is a key benefit where AI can fit. Of course, again, if we look at the other side of this, coming back to the ROI or return on investment, telecommunications companies sell their services. And okay, as a lot of consumers, we might think, well, we see an advert, we phone up and go get it. But of course, the whole business environment is something where usually they would have salespeople going out and talking to the customer and so on. And one of the real gaps in that environment where AI can help is the salesman often goes to a customer, gets his needs, goes back to engineering and asks them, you know, can we give this customer a service? And that may well take engineering a month to respond. Where an AI can come in and assist the sales guy. I mean, you could also put this in a chatbot, in a customer-facing agent, but also even for the sales guy out there, maybe you still need that personal touch. But for the AI to drill back and do the feasibility on that data, and that's where, of course, the inventory and data is so important. That's where the newer areas of AI in telco can be used in terms of agentic systems, replacing some of the call center operators, helping the salespeople sell the network and so on. So I think these are areas which really lend themselves to AI.
Yeah. I would say also, you know, another big related area on AI, but I would say probably it's related to this automation that you've talked about, Jeff, that's been going on in the telecommunications space forever, was just the expansion of cloud capabilities, right? I mean, cloud. It's so funny. I'm old enough, Jeff, to remember a time when there was no cloud. And now I think it's literally everything is deployed on the cloud, and there's always discussions on, well, let's figure out how we deploy this correctly, how it can maybe offer us more flexibility, scalability, etc. But tell me a little bit about how the cloud work supports, really, I'd say, the work that telecommunications companies can do and what you guys can do in terms of things like, let's say, like workflows, operational workflows, inventory workflows, etc.
I mean, cloud obviously is something which now has become realized and a lot of companies have moved to. Our experience in the telecommunications environment, especially the tier ones and tier twos, they're still not quite there with cloud, to be quite honest.
Wow.
Because the telecommunication system consists of these various systems. Besides inventory, you have billing, you have CRMs, you have these various systems, and with the amount of data being generated and being able to track the live state of the network, there is a reticence as to where the cloud can do it all, because as soon as you take one part off and you have the data back in your on-prem, you have this need to integrate it. And the other thing is of course, telecommunications companies are very security conscious about their network, or they see it as their IP, knowing that. And so to some extent that inhibits, I think, has slowed the movement of cloud. But of course there are other innovations in terms of cloud, because you can get cloud at customer, where a cloud company will come in and put in infrastructure for a very large customer or for a group of customers where they can, because the big thing cloud gives you is the scalability.
Yeah.
If you are a big company that has 20,000 constant concurrent users on a system, and that load grows and reduces, and you might have customers coming in, you have huge change in the scale. And of course, by cloud, there really gives you a cost improvement, a reliability improvement, because you can have the redundancy that you need. And certainly we have some customers who have moved on to cloud. We're targeting perhaps smaller customers, because also the skill level for a smaller telco to actually put in this type of system, they need fairly high skill levels to run the IT aspect. So where you get a smallish fiber to the home provider who do planning, who do some build, but they're a company of 100, 200 people, if that, and they need an inventory system and they need some AI maybe, but there the cloud really is ideal. And we've been investing in that as well. So as I say, most of our customers are still on-prem, but we do see we have made our software cloud-enabled, cloud-ready, cloud-native, all these terms, of course, and we do have customers now working in the cloud where we can manage the system for them, and it reduces their skill level that they need to drive the IT part of it. They can just use the tool. And another area for our systems are quite complex when you come to inventory. Another area that we're working on is actually assisted learning. I mean, longer term, of course, you may well get to full automation, but right now, the small companies don't necessarily want to spend a lot of money and time on getting their people trained. And so looking at the AI actually being part of the system to help a brand new user as he grows and learns about the system, to actually do it and not have to go to formal training classes and this type of thing. So this is really, I think, an area where by putting it in the cloud and making it available, where people can just sign up and start using it, and it trains them. So this is an area which I've been exploring to actually provide that type of assistance.
Yeah, I can see, well, look, I mean, we're going to continue to see kind of that shift, especially as companies need more scalability and flexibility. They're going to have to build more and more sophisticated solutions there. But, Jeff, I love talking to executives like yourself when it comes to things like AI, because, we read what we see in the media, and everyone kind of can either get excited or fearful, and we can kind of misinterpret it. But what people don't seem to really kind of talk clearly about is, where should I start? Like, where can I make a meaningful kind of step forward when I think about the AI opportunity? And I feel like guys like you really know what's going on. So you're kind of like, well, I know where you should start, So tell me a little bit about, where should a telecommunications provider focus first to achieve really kind of, I'd say, benefits, measurable benefits, let's say.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we can talk a lot about what areas of AI we should start in. But coming back to where we really started this conversation, without data, you can do nothing. The AI will do nothing for you. So the first thing they have to look at is their data ready? Is their data, firstly, is it properly recorded? And are you able to access it? Are the APIs, and on top of APIs, of course, we have MCP today, which AI agentic systems can talk to. And so, but if you don't have the inventory system, the billing system, and all of these data sources up to date and ready, firstly, you can't. So that's the starting point. Hopefully, most companies do have this, but it is a key thing to decide. If you stick an AI on top of records which you know are only 30% accurate, you're going to have a disaster. So I think that's the first thing. Obviously, with the call centers, the huge number of call centers and customer interfacing systems that they have, there's a natural which place for them to start. And I think a lot of them have started, where at least the first contact can be through WhatsApp or whatever system it is that they put it out there. You can ask some questions because people ask the same questions over and over, and we all see that. So that's a good starting point. Even if your data is not ready, you can certainly get cost savings for the organization.
Yeah.
At telecommunications, one of their biggest problems beside acquiring customers, of course, is churn, what they call churn, where, of course, the guy signs up, he's on a month-to-month basis, and somebody else offers a better service, and he jumps. And one of the key drivers of that is of course, the customer-facing interfaces. I sit on the phone waiting for half an hour in a queue to get a response which only takes 30 seconds to answer. And I get fed up, and somebody tells me, well, the company next door doesn't have that problem. So I think the agentic systems in that area are the starting point, because they can just reduce that load that we have on call centers.
Yeah.
Then, of course, network operations, live monitoring, self-healing, ensuring SLA areas, provided your data is in place and your system can do that. Those are key benefits, because again, if you have SLAs, and they do have SLAs with their big business customers, this can really improve and stop the number of failures or KPI transgressions, if you like, where they don't meet the SLA. Because with constant monitoring, which of course humans can't do, that you might have a shift work, but you're still never going to have that level of that a real-time AI system can do. So that's the next step, is obviously to really embed it in there. And then that final is that whole feasibility, sell my service, analyze is really when your data is good and your systems are all working together and your AI can really interface to all of those. I think that's the next step.
Jeff, I love talking to you about this. If I was a telecommunications provider and operator, I would feel very calmed listening to you. You outline it very, very clearly. I get a sense that clearly the biggest thing is the data. Got to get the data going. But man, there's a ton of areas that we're going to see opportunity to really improve things, shape things, which is very, very exciting. If someone wanted to learn more and to reach out to you, Jeff, where's the best place to find you?
I think, obviously our VertiGIS.com, you can find lots of information about the company, about what we do in telecommunications. There's lots of contacts on there. We are very active on LinkedIn, so you'll see all of our pre-sales, sales, and occasionally me on LinkedIn publishing information and so on. So that's another place people can find us.
Excellent. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show today. We've been speaking with Jeff Connacher. We have been talking heavily about the state of AI network solution deployments in telecommunications businesses. Jeff is the head of product management at VertiGIS. He focuses on the product management for telecommunications operators, and certainly the exciting thing I would say about the telecommunications space is they have a lot of data. They certainly have probably one of the best data sets that anybody has. And so it's really kind of figuring out how that can be utilized and how to build those machine learning and AI deployments that will have meaningful impact on how they are more efficient, how they can scale, how they can maintain flexibility, etc. Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show today, and we look forward to having you back.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye. Okay.